In this first video, I'm going to talk about what exactly a DSLR is and some of the benefits and what makes them so awesome. So essentially, it's the same as a single lens reflex camera, SLR, but now they've added the digital sensor at the back. So if I dig out my old trusty Nikon FM2, now this is an SLR camera, so this doesn't have the digital back. It's a film camera. So that's the main difference between a digital SLR and a SLR camera. So as you can see, this is where we loaded the film, 35mm film. So like the digital SLR cameras, it had a control button at the top. Now this is a fully manual camera, so this actually had shutter speeds, ISO settings, and then the aperture you would actually change on the lens. Now getting back to the digital SLR cameras, we've now replaced the film back with an actual digital sensor on the inside, and there's a bunch of extra buttons and controls associated with digital SLR cameras. Now the big benefit, of course, going digital is that you can preview images immediately after taking them, and with memory cards now, as the sizes get bigger and bigger, you can literally fit thousands of images on these memory cards. So if you were using a traditional camera, a film-based camera, that would be 50 to 100 rolls of film would be the equivalent of one memory card. So there's no question that there's a huge advantage going digital. And one of the other advantages of going digital is having that instant access to your images so that you can put them on the computer, you can manipulate them, you can email them and print them. So it really puts you in control of your photography a lot more than before. Before you'd have to get the rolls of print or slide film sent to the lab and wait a few days. In some cases you could get them at an hour processing place, but you really don't know how your photos came out until they came back from the lab. Definitely a distinct advantage. Now, of course, some of the new cameras, digital SLRs, are very capable HD video cameras as well. Now, the real benefits of a digital SLR over a point-and-shoot camera are the fact that you have interchangeable lenses. So that allows you to swap lenses, upgrade your lenses. You can buy more professional quality lenses, and you can buy more specific lenses to whatever type of photography you're into. There's specialist lenses as well. So the upgrade options are quite amazing. And you can really start off basic with your kit and then build up accessories and lenses in a direction where your photography takes you. Another benefit of digital SLRs over point-and-shoot cameras is their response rate. Like a digital SLR, when you pick up and shoot, it's instant when you hit that shutter button. There can be a slight delay with the autofocus and the exposure calculation, but it's fractions of a second and it's really responsive compared to some point and shoots where you'll press the button and half a second to a second later it'll take the image. Another benefit of digital SLR cameras over point and shoots are the amazingly big sensor, and that allows you to get really low light photographs with very little noise, and so the image quality is really quite a jump up from a point and shoot camera. Now a lot of still photographers too, the benefit for digital SLR cameras and why they are used by professionals is the fact that you have a viewfinder where you're looking through the lens, so you're seeing exactly what the camera is seeing. And that also allows you to compose your shots better with less distraction. So you're basically looking straight through your lens and be able to compose with minimal distractions. And that's why they're favored by professional photographers as well. So we're looking at interchangeable lenses, amazing sensor, the fact that you're actually looking through the lens, and their response rate is great. And also what they have done with digital SLR cameras is they've put a lot of the essential settings as dedicated buttons, and that's really important for a professional photographer to be able to really quickly access those controls that he needs and those settings he needs. So quite often a professional photographer will be just glued to the viewfinder, taking the photographs and just hitting the appropriate button and changing the settings without even moving his eye from the viewfinder. So that makes taking photos in a professional environment a lot more efficient and quick. So in connection with these extra buttons allowing you to change modes quickly are the fact that there are so many manual controls. You pretty much have access to all the different settings manually so that you can fine-tune your photos to exactly how you want once you know what those settings and principles are. And finally, some of the new digital SLR cameras have HD video. Now, point-and-shoot cameras, a lot of them have video functions as well, and some of them even HD video. But you can't really compare the quality because of the large sensor size on the digital SLRs. The image quality is really approaching more like a film look, so certainly a lot better quality than most point-and-shoot cameras. So that pretty much wraps up the major benefits over point-and-shoot cameras. Now let's just take a quick tour of the digital SLR camera and the major components. First of all, we have the body and the lens. So those are the two major components that come with your camera. I'll first go through the major features you have on the body. So the key to a digital SLR camera is the mirror and the prism system, which leads to the viewfinder on the back. So that allows you to view directly through the lens and be able to zoom and focus and see exactly what the sensor will be seeing. Then you have the on-off switch. This varies for different models. Sometimes it's up next to the controller on the left or the right. You have the all-important shutter release button. You have other buttons associated with menus and different settings. I'm just giving you a broad overview because I'm going to go into details on particular buttons and settings in the appropriate sections. You have controllers. You have your main control knob, which sets which shooting mode you're in, and usually another kind of controller or directional joystick or joypad where you can choose menu settings and scroll through your images. And a big feature on the back of the DSLRs is the large LCD display, which allows you to display your images on the card, as well as on the newer models you actually have live view, so you can switch to live view and the mirror at the front pops up and it'll actually show you a live preview of the photograph that you're going to take. So it's an actual view of what the sensor's going to record. And that also occurs in the HD video mode. So on the newer models that have HD video, when you're recording video, the mirror is up and you effectively in live view mode, but recording your videos. And with each DSLR you have a battery compartment which houses the battery, and you'll get a charger that comes with your DSLR as well for recharging these batteries. Also worth having a spare, but I'll go more into that in the DSLR Essentials video. And a memory card, which is one of the main features of digital cameras in general. So in this case I have a compact flash card, and a lot of the semi-professional and beginner level models will have SD cards, which are a lot smaller, but they come with similar capacities as the compact flash cards. While we're on the topic of memory cards, I need to bring up an important point. A lot of DSLR cameras have an option in the menu which is to enable you to shoot photographs without a memory card. So you can have no memory card in the camera and be able to take photographs. It's quite often switched on by default too when you get the camera. Now I think that's a really risky situation because you don't want to be put in a situation when you go out with your camera and you get that sort of perfect photograph and you line it up and you take the photo and then you find that you actually don't have a memory card in the camera. So the first thing you should do when you get your camera is check in the manual, find out where that setting is and turn it off. You don't want to be able to shoot photographs without a memory card. You're better off trying to take the photograph and having the camera actually warn you, say, sorry, you can't take the photo because there's no memory card. Actually, I remember when I was in Hawaii as a professional wedding photographer, I heard the story about a wedding photographer, who, this was actually in film days, but it's a similar principle. He started shooting this wedding and took a bunch of photographs at crucial moments during the ceremony, and found out afterwards that he hadn't loaded a roll of film in the camera. So that's effectively what would happen if you didn't put a memory card in and you were shooting away. And yeah, it ended up being a total disaster. He had to fly all the people in, because it was actually a destination wedding, and he had to fly all the guests into Hawaii and pay for the entire ceremony again, all due to this little error of not putting a little canister film in the camera, which turned out to be a big problem. So I would recommend turning that setting off, because you don't want to be put in that same position where you have some crucial photographs that you need to take and find out afterwards that you didn't actually have memory card in. Because if you have that shooting without memory card, you'll be shooting away and it won't warn you. You'll just find out later when you hit the playback button that there's actually no images in your camera because there's actually no memory card. So that's a very important point. And now going on to underneath the camera, and aside from the battery compartment, there's not a lot of features underneath the camera, usually just the tripod mount for attaching your camera to a tripod. And on the top of the camera, we've already mentioned that there's a bunch of buttons, as well as some cameras will have the additional LCD. And the very top we have a hot shoe. In some models we may have a pop-up flash. This particular model, which is the Canon 5D Mark I, there is no pop-up flash, but it has the hot shoe to allow you to attach an external flash. Now on the front of the DSLR body you'll have a lens release button, and that's what allows you to release the lens when it's attached. And down here I have another little button, and that's depth of field preview. So now we'll take a tour of the next major component of your DSLR camera, which is the lens. Now with the lens we have the focusing ring, which is found on all cameras, and there'll be a button to either have autofocus or manual focus. You can also buy lenses that are manual only and won't have that auto focus option. A lot of lenses will have a readout too, so when you're focusing you'll actually see the distance, focus distance value in that little readout. So that can be useful too for if you kind of pre-focusing, knowing that your subject's going to pass within a certain distance. You can set it on the focus ring for that distance. And on this particular lens, which is a zoom lens, we have the zoom ring, which in this case takes us from 16mm to 35mm. And on the front we'll have, there'll be an option for mounting a lens hood, which I have in this case. So all lenses have this attachment for lens hoods. And on the very front there'll be a thread for attaching filters. And those filters will be filters of a certain size. So in this case we have a 77mm lens filter diameter. So when you're buying filters to fit your lenses, you just make sure that you're getting the correct size diameter for your particular lens. And so that's pretty much it for the lens. And as I mentioned, you have a lens release, so that's how you take the lenses off. You press the lens release and you rotate it and the lens comes off. And when you put your lenses on the camera you need to line up some features. Now on this particular Canon, this is a Canon EF lens on this Canon body, so in this case we line up the red dots. So the red dot on the lens with the red dot on the body, and that makes connection, and then we rotate it and it clicks into place. Now that'll vary depending on your model camera. And with EFS lenses, which are lenses that are made specifically for crop factor DSLR cameras, you'll line up white dots rather than red dots. There's actually a couple more things you may find on a lens depending on the lens, so I'm going to put on a larger lens here to show you what I'm talking about. This is a 70-200 professional series Canon lens, a f2.8 lens. Don't worry so much about the values right now. I'm going to go into what f2.8 means and the zoom 70-200 and all those kind of details later, so don't worry about those right now. Now with this lens, it's actually an image stabilizing lens. So here we do have some extra settings, like we have the stabilizer, we have the option to switch the stabilizer on and off, and there's 2 different stabilizing modes as well. And also on this lens, which you'll find on a lot of the larger zooms and telephoto lenses, is a tripod mount. What happens is when you have such a large lens on the camera, it really becomes quite front heavy. So it makes more sense to place the lens directly on the tripod. It has a better balance that way. So especially with the really long lenses, it makes quite a lot of difference when you have such a heavy piece of lens in the front. And in fact, if you have the tripod mount on the camera with a really heavy lens on the front, that's going to start causing stress to the mount as well. So that's another reason why they put that on the heavier lenses. So that pretty much sums it up. We have the camera and the lens, the battery and the memory card, and you're ready to go. You're ready to go shoot. And all other accessories are in addition to that. So this is enough to get going and to start taking photographs straight away. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the essentials that you need in your DSLR kit. And some of that will overlap what we've just mentioned here. There's certain things that you definitely need to be able to go out and take photographs. And there are some other accessories which I consider essentials, especially if you're going to take more creative photographs and explore your photography to a greater degree. So I'll go into those in the next video as well. So thank you for listening.